Welcome back here to Mountain Connections. Our next guest is a former two-time company founder, and now he works as a business coach with the Sequoia Group, giving great expertise for all business leaders and business owners here in Utah. Chris Cochella, how are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure to see you, sir. And today we're talking about cultivating environments of no fear, which is super, super important. But before we get into that, you know, everyone who gets into business knows that it's a risky venture. And what do you say is the biggest risk in business today?
Yeah, the biggest risk today, I would say, is silence.
And what do you mean by silence? Is this people just not working, not speaking? What do you mean?
Yeah, it's really not speaking. It's people in a business, anywhere in the business, not speaking up about what they see or hear.
And tell us a little bit more about why silence can be such a hindrance to a positive work environment and a productive work environment.
Well, we're in a time of rapid change, right? I mean, digitization of things, business changes very rapidly. And so it's not hearing from the people in the business about what's happening on the ground, what they're learning, what problems might be arising that pose the greatest risk and uncertainty to a business today.
And why are people being silent? Is it a fear of retribution from upper management? Is it a fear of not having their grievances addressed? What is it exactly?
Well, it is fear, like you say. We all have it, right? We've all sat in a room, and even as adults, and someone said, "Who wants to start?" And we all sit there and deer in the headlights, right? And we fear something, right? We fear looking dumb. We might fear retribution, depending on the environment, and so we hold back.
I guess really the fear is the common human fear of the unknown, not knowing what the response is going to be to you putting yourself out there like that.
Sure, it's natural.
Yeah.
And we want to discourage that hesitation. We want to encourage people speaking up. And in any given environment, there may be more or less of that interpersonal risk of speaking up.
And there's actually some statistics that show how much this actually affects a work environment, right? You cited Google as showing some great statistics providing.
Yeah, there are a lot of statistics. One of the best studies done recently, maybe about 5 years ago, was Google in their, they called it Project Aristotle. Mm-hmm. They gave it these fun names, yeah. Right? And they studied 180 teams inside Google.
Okay.
Of course, Google is very much performance-oriented. They're very analytical, so they scrutinized themselves. And they looked across 250 different variables. And what they found that mattered for high-performing teams was not the A players, was not the best schools necessarily. It was 5 criteria, and the first criteria opened the door to the other 4. It was a requirement, and it was psychological safety.
I see. So it was those employees feeling like they could be open about changes that need to be made, about things that need to be addressed. This was the key to all of the other aspects that make a successful team.
Correct.
Wow. So it really starts all with that.
Yes, with a no fear, psychologically safe,
wow.
Low interpersonal risk. In other words, do people feel free to speak up, share their ideas, share what maybe bad news that they're seeing in the marketplace, right? As a leader, you want to know that as early as possible to fix it. Otherwise, it gets bigger and bigger, or a competitor comes around you and fills in the gap.
Absolutely. And how exactly can a business benefit from just being open like that and having a little bit of transparency, as well as management being open to all of the employees, being able to speak up and address what they think needs to happen at the business?
Yeah, the benefits are immense.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the Gallup studies, they show that the U.S. workforce is about 30% engaged.
Wow.
And that turnover is very high. The cost of turnover, let's say, is about 1.5 to 2 times a salary.
Wow. So
if you were to increase that sense of safety, people want to stay. They become more engaged, and just that alone is a huge savings. Mm-hmm. They also show that a greater engaged workforce has about 22% more profitability of a given business. And that's not even looking at innovation or adaptability.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. It just leads itself to productivity, which again is going to lead itself to higher profits.
Correct.
So what can leaders do, business leaders do, management do to cultivate this no fear environment, this no judgment environment, I guess you could say?
Yeah, if you look at all the studies, they kind of boil down to 3 things. One is foster and create an environment of learning. pose work as more about learning than it is about, a specific execution, get it done. And that increases the level of safety.
That's great.
Of course, people still need to get it done, and there still need to be those measures, but
the feeling that there's room for growth and the room to be able to voice those opinions is a huge thing. So starting there is
correct. And personal growth and the professional growth and the business growth all really go together in work today.
Yeah.
The other one is humility.
Okay.
Having leaders, and whether that's a leader of a small team or a leader at the top, communicate and express a level of fallibility that we don't always know, or that they don't always know, and that mistakes are there, and own up to them. And that creates an environment for other people to say, hey, I made a mistake.
To do the same.
Let's all learn from it and move forward.
Lead by example there.
Yep. And the third is curiosity, which goes back to learning a little bit, but to continually pose questions where people are saying, what if? How might we? Rather than do this, do that.
Yeah.
Right? It creates an environment of where people want to open up and express themselves.
More of an open-minded approach to a situation, which is great.
Yeah.
Chris, thanks as always for your great expertise. We always appreciate it. Where can people go to learn a little bit more about your business consulting and leadership consulting?
Well, there's our website, sequoiagroup.co, and I'm available on LinkedIn.
Excellent, Chris. As always, a pleasure hearing from you, and we always learn so much, learning a little bit about cultivating no-fear environments in the workplace and how important that is. You can check them out at sequoiagroup.co, and check them out on LinkedIn as well. Mr. Chris Cochella. We'll be right back with much more right here on Mountain Connections.